Hi there, Heather Steves here, and today I want to share with you a process video for this layout that I created for my son's graduation. It's based on this layout that I found on Pinterest. So I prepared a few things ahead of time, including this ribbon that I found at Dollarama. It's got some great colors to go with grad layouts, and I have all my pictures cut according to what I need for the layout. So I'm just laying them out here so I can get a bit of a start on it. I used the Regatta paper suite from Close to My Heart. It had cut apart sheets that I've cut all apart already and treat them just like my PML cards. And I've decided that I'm going to stamp on each one of these some kind of inspirational sayings. So this one here is the C1685 stamp, Inspire, and it has a nice little quote on it that I think is very suitable. The next one here is C1606, which is from the stamp set A Thing Well Done, which again has a really nice quote that suits this. And my boys actually go to Christian school, so I thought it was really appropriate to use one of the stamps from B1665, which is Bible verses. That goes really well as well on my layout here. So next up, I'm going to make the little title that's on the left side of my layout, and I have another PML card that matches the ones on the right so that it carries over that pattern and color to the left side. I'm stamping that with the stamp of the month S2111, Created to Shine, and that I think is a perfect little title for this layout. And then I'm going to cut it out using my Stitch Fancy Bracket Thin Cuts. So out of all of the products that I'm using with the stamps and the thin cuts, this one is actually still available. All of the stamps are retired, but this thin cut is still available, and I highly recommend it. I use it all the time. Now, before I get too much further, I'm just going to start to attach things down onto the layout. With the embellishing portion of this, I'm not totally sure what my plan is going to be at this point, so I figure it'd be easier to figure that out once things are attached onto my pages. So as you can see, I'm just starting at the bottom. I'm kind of going back and forth because all of these are 4x3. They're not necessarily exactly the same dimension, so by the way that I'm laying them down, I can match up those corners really nicely. But you see that they're not perfect, and so, but all I have to do is trim this picture off here, and then there's a little bit of a gap at the top, so I'm just going to trim that top piece off. Nobody's ever going to notice the difference that it's a tiny bit shorter. And then actually I was surprised at how easily these little 3x4s came together. They don't always line up that easily, but these ones actually did. So now I'm just lining up the other side to get these 4x6s down, and then that makes it a lot easier for me to continue on here. So next up, I'm going to add the ribbon to my layout. I had this little piece that came from an explosion box that I made for my boys. I replaced it with some ribbon with a date, so I had this extra piece, so I thought I might as well use it here. So I'm just putting some score tape down, and then I have this other piece that I know I want to use here, but I don't know which side I'm going to use, so I'm just using it to line things up. And look, I set it on top of a wet stamp and now it has a blob on it. But whatever, it's fine because I only need a 3x4 piece. So I'm just going to cut that down now and have that 3x4 piece sitting there so I can line it up. But I don't know which side of the paper I want to show up. I like this back side that has the stars because it carries that theme, but it's not quite the right color. So the other side is more of the same color as the rest of the pieces. So I'm attaching that, and then I flip it over with my ribbon, and then I'm attaching the ribbon on the back with some more score tape, and that just makes it a little bit easier than having a rough edge. And then I put a little bit of Scotch tape on that, which allows me to make it slide in and out of my page protector a lot easier, and things don't get caught on the ribbon and tear it. And now I'm just going to do the same at the top. It will have a raw edge there on that one side, but it's not really that big of a deal because I'm pretty sure that I'm going to put my little title there, and that will cover up that raw edge and hopefully stop it from fraying. So now I'm going going to add the rest of the ribbon on the left side of the layout. It is going to have a raw edge sitting at the end there, so I thought I would try with my lighter. Sometimes you can melt the edge of a ribbon and then it will not fray, but this being Dollarama ribbon didn't work, so I just tried and I gave it a really nice clean cut, and hopefully then it's not going to end up fraying. Once it's in the page protector, it shouldn't be too bad, but it is something that I don't like to have on the front of a layout if I can help it in any way. So I think in the end I actually covered up. Oh, but look, in cutting it, it was too short, but luckily I have more. So I just have to cut another piece and give that another try. And then I will tuck the other end under the photo that's there. Again, just to protect that raw edge, it just makes it a lot more secure. So I just jumped ahead here. You don't need to watch me putting more score tape on my layout, and I'm just trying to cut the edge of this thicker ribbon at the bottom, but it's a lot harder because it's thicker and it's quite thin. So I thought, well, I'm going to try my little guillotine cutter. It kind of worked, but not great. So I'll try the other side, and that one looks a lot better. But again, I have a raw edge that's going to sit there, so I really want it to be nice and straight, and it's not always easy to get a nice straight cut on a piece of flimsy ribbon. And then as I was trying to attach it, it kind of started to fray apart. So I'm just going to cut another piece, and I'm really wishing here that I had my old my old ribbon cutter. You can get those ribbon cutters, I don't know where, online somewhere, and they actually melt the ribbon to cut it. Again, I don't know how great they'll work on cheap ribbon like this, but it would just probably make it a lot easier and a lot faster, and I wouldn't have to keep redoing it. But I finally get it to work out okay, and again, you can see I'm tucking the other raw edge underneath the photo and just making sure that everything's secure there. And now I finally got my ribbon done, except for that little piece. I just got to tuck around the back, and then I can move on. So now it's time to finish with my embellishments and my title, and I had pulled out these old fundamental cardstocks from Close to My Heart. They have UV coating on one side with the pattern, and then the reverse is the same pattern but in white and then the color. So this color matches perfectly to the other colors on the layout. So I've used my stitched Fancy Brackets thin cuts again, and I've cut the frame out, and I'm just gonna pop that up with some foam tape, and then that will help to give some dimension to my title. So I'm just pulling out one more stamp. So this is an M size stamp, M1312. You Did It, which is for graduation, and it is perfect little embellishment for these layouts. So I'm not totally sure what I want to do with it yet, so I stamped it on a piece of that pattern paper that matches the one over by my title, and I'm just gonna fussy cut that out and see where I can use it. So my inspiration layout had like a little bit of a cluster of items, and it had a circle with some stars on top of it. So I kind of want to mimic that a little bit. I pulled out my stitch circle thin cut, and it's not really big enough, and then I have this old scallop circle thin cut, which I just love. I use it all the time, and I decided that it would really work great. So again, I'm using that Fundamentals UV coated cardstock, and that's going to pull that color back over to the right side from the left side. I also want to create a visual triangle here, so I want like 3 clusters, so my title and then 2 other clusters. So I'm going to go ahead and I've cut my second scallop circle, and then I'm just kind of playing around with the placement of them and how they're going to work. So I'm really not happy with the stamp on the pattern paper, so I'm just looking to see what would it look like if I used my stitch circle thin cut. I just happen to have one in my stash there, but it takes up so much space on the scallop circle that you can't really see the scallop circle properly, so I decided against that, and I decided instead I'm going to restamp it and put it on white cardstock, and then I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut that one as well. So now that I have that done, I am much happier with how that's going to look on top of the scallop circle, but I'm not sure if I want to tuck that circle under there. I don't want to pull up my ribbon and destroy it, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut a piece off of that, and that's more what I'm looking for. So I'm going to foam tape my little You Did It stamp and see how that is going to look for me. Again, I've got 2 clusters that I want to work on. I'd like that stamp on the left side, but then what do I put on the right side? So I thought, oh, well, what if I just used those books again and took that You Did It off? So I tried that with the leftover one that I had, and I like that idea. So I'll go ahead and I'll stamp that on white, fussy cut it out, and then I'll have the 2 there to work with. And oh, look, there's a stitch circle again. I'm trying it again, but I still don't like it. So we'll just skip on the stitch circle and go ahead with our fussy cutting. So now that I have my second little stack of books cut out, I just got to decide where to put it, and I'm not too sure. I just don't want to cover up that top 2 balloon. So I'm playing around with it there. If I put it underneath that, again, I don't want to rip up that ribbon because that will make a big mess of the ribbon and I'll probably have to redo it. So I'm like, well, I think I like it better down at the bottom, so I might as well go ahead and just cut a piece of that circle off, and then that'll make it easier to decide. I do end up liking it at the bottom there. It doesn't create as much of a triangle. If it was at the top, it would be a little bit better, but with that picture, it works better there. So here I've just grabbed some gold twine out of my stash. I've had this probably for 30 years. Anyway, Close to My Heart did sell some, and I have used it, and it's definitely better than this. This was, I don't even know what it was, the purpose was, but I found it, I think, at White Rose. That's how old it is. Anyway, so I'm just going to play around with that and add some underneath some of my embellishments just to add a little bit of an extra pop of interest, I guess, and a little bit of shimmer of metallic. So you see me just attaching down these scallop circles. And then getting some the twine ready. I'm actually using a Zot adhesive dot to hold it, so I just get it in a little bit of a circle there, and then I stick that Zot on, and that holds it all in place, and then I just attach it down underneath my embellishment, and then the foam tape will hold it down that much more. And then I'm going to go ahead and do that for the other one as well. So you can see that I keep running this twine through my fingers. I don't know if it's just because it's so old and it's been on that card for so long, but the kinks in it from being on that card are kind of stuck in it. So I was running it through my fingers in the hopes of evening it out. And I know with the Close to My Heart twine, I can do that and it works, but this one, it's not working so much. But as you do that, it kind of in a way unravels. And so then you see that I've had to trim off the ends again because the ends are not as even of the individual pieces that are twined around to make the twine, if that makes any sense. But now that I've got those down, I'm finally going to commit to this little 3x4 piece of paper, and I am going to keep it with the darker color up and forego the stars, even though I like the idea of them. They just weren't quite the right color. And then I'm going to attach my title. And you can see that I've added foam tape to this again, and that's going to give it a lot of dimension. Even though it is kind of a thinner foam tape, it just gives it a little bit more of a pop, which I really think looks great. I'm going to try a little bit of twine up at the top. I do have a little bit of it left, but not much. And I thought, rules of 3, I'll just try tucking it in there, but ultimately I don't like it, so we'll just forgo that and not worry about it. But it does need just a little bit more bling, so I pulled out these gold gems, but I don't really like them. They're not the right color, so I pulled out my glitter gems instead, the gold glitter gems, and they are the exact right color to go with this. So I'm just going to place those again in groups of 3 and add each cluster of embellishments, and then that just kind of finishes off my layout, and I am quite happy with how it turned out, even though it is a little bit simple, but I'm looking at it as kind of like a classy look without too much commotion going on there. So I really hope that you enjoyed my video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and have yourself a wonderful day.